I really like when films try to break past definitions of traditional genres and blend them in for fun or experimental ways, and I think that David Lowery, writer and director of A Ghost Story and The Green Knight, is a filmmaker who really thrives in these slow burn dramas that unfold in unusual ways, and I'm very happy to say that he's 3 for 3 with his films that I've seen, but you likely haven't watched his newest release or even heard of it, despite releasing only a few weeks ago, which is a shame, because Mother Mary was great, and it deserved better. I was already sold on Mother Mary given his track record and the premise, starring Anne Hathaway as a Taylor Swift or Beyonce-like pop star, reuniting with her former costume designer. She's played by Michaela Coel in order to design a dress for a major comeback performance. And when I tell you that most of this movie is these two women together in just an empty warehouse, working through their past issues and history to simply design a dress, I mean, it doesn't sound like it on paper, but between the pacing of their conversation, the performances, the direction, this movie was really engaging for me. Like being a fly on the wall for a bad breakup / reunion. It's simple and intimate, and it reminds me of some other films I love, like 12 Angry Men, The Humans, or The Man from Earth. Despite having a full cast list of about 10 or so credited actors, 95% of this movie centers solely around Hathaway and Cole alone, plus Hunter Schafer as Cole's assistant. And I'll mention now that Hathaway's performance is very good, but Michaela Coel almost steals the spotlight for me. Her character, Sam, is so human and down to earth in a way that you typically wouldn't see in a film like this. It borders on being both a psychological thriller and horror, but Cole's character, Sam, is so likable, and her no-nonsense attitude toward her work and her relationship with Mother Mary. It helps ground the film as a very solid and surprisingly approachable drama, and one that I could easily recommend even for those who typically only go to the theater a few times out of the year. Lowery's films all have this unique hook regarding the relative perception of time, and he likes to include scenes that really emphasize the passage of time. A Ghost Story has the famous pie eating scene that goes on for what feels like 20 minutes, and then it'll flash through years of someone's life within seconds. The Green Knight has that great, slow, rotating shot in the forest, and Mother Mary features an uninterrupted dance routine by Hathaway with absolutely no sound but the smacking of her feet against the wood floor and her grunts. And it goes on for so long, you can feel the awkwardness from Cole's character as she watches, but it felt like such a personal insight into the creative process and routine of an artist who has to risk presenting themselves in awkward or uncomfortable ways because of how they believe in the art that they're creating. I found that very relatable, and I think it would work for anyone who's poured a lot of time or effort into a project that they're passionate about. Lowery explores these frustrations and emotions that come with creating art, the pursuit of love, and all that would come with that experience. Toxicity, passion, beauty, horror. This movie, despite being so simple, is also gorgeous, and there are some excellent dream sequences that are done perfectly, which shouldn't surprise anyone who's seen The Green Knight. The imagery and themes together are so powerful and overwhelming that it can come across as supernatural in the film. And at this point, I'd say it's worth addressing the elephant in the room. The trailer, poster, and taglines of the film might give you the impression that it's a heavy thriller or horror film, kind of like Black Swan or the Suspiria films. And in some ways, I guess so. I think anyone who is completely averse to horror might be turned off by Mother Mary and how the film progresses, especially in the second half, but I still don't know if I'd call it a horror film. There are elements and moments though that are ripped up straight out of something like The Exorcist, right? So I don't really know. Like I said, it's a really interesting blend of genres that borrows some great horror elements to help tell this dramatic story between two individuals who were once one. I found the unconventional elements of Mother Mary to all work in developing that prevailing theme about love and art and the push and pull between those two forces. This movie isn't perfect though. There's some editing choices that felt a little off or jarring. Some lines felt like they had some aggressive ADR slapped on, which took me out of a scene or two. Funny enough, some of the music and song performances I didn't find very engaging. People shouldn't go into this expecting like a crazy concert film or musical biopic. The story is very much about Mary the human, not Mother Mary the idol, so the music being a bit underwhelming wasn't a major issue, because to me that's not really what the movie is about. But the real kicker of the film is around the midway point, maybe close to the end of the second act. There is a scene, a pivotal scene that flips the switch of the film, kickstarting the second half and leading to some of the craziest and most interesting nightmare and dreamlike sequences. There's choreographed performances that feel ripped out of a big Broadway stage production, and they beautifully represent the exhaustion and borderline manic result of being a high-profile artist and performer. But before the movie can get to all that, There's a scene involving another actress, basically the fourth and final noteworthy actress of the film. Her only speaking lines are in this scene. She's in the movie for just about 4 or 5 minutes of screen time, and then she disappears, almost acting like some kind of plot device that kind of comes out of nowhere and helps propel the story forward. And I could look past that, right? Because I really dug the second half of this movie and how much weirder and creepier and crazier it gets. But this fourth actress who kickstarts this is very bad. Her performance and line delivery just instantly took me out of the film. I couldn't tell at first whether her lines were dubbed over or not, and to have her acting opposite Anne Hathaway of all people... And it wasn't until after the movie that I looked it up to find that actress was FKA Twigs, who is an English singer-songwriter who actually contributed original music to the film's soundtrack. Now, I didn't know anything about her prior to this movie. I didn't know any of her music or previous acting credits. I bet she's an absolutely lovely lady, right? I'm only critiquing what I saw from this movie, and I very much subscribe to the belief that in most cases, there are very few bad actors truly, only directors who didn't give the right direction. So I have to blame David Lowery too, but wow, I didn't like her scene at all. I just found it to be so distracting, and it's such a shame that she's not just a cameo or anything. It's this important scene that sets the stage for the rest of the movie to follow, and I just could not get behind anything she was doing or saying. It just didn't work for me. This is the weirdest comparison I could make, and it's hyperbolic, but it kind of felt like a gonk droid taking Vader's spot right after he slices Luke's hand. And then the movie continues on like nothing happened. It's the only major blemish, and you should be prepared going in, because otherwise, Mother Mary is great, and no one has gone to see it. I have to imagine either A24 didn't feel like putting their full effort into marketing this, despite having a slam dunk of a premise with Anne Hathaway as a pop star like Taylor Swift. I totally could have seen a path where this movie was advertised to hardcore Swifties to trick them into seeing this, especially because Jack Antonoff, who's worked with her and other famous pop stars on their music, also contributed original music to this film's soundtrack. Or maybe they felt like they couldn't compete with The Devil Wears Prada 2, which is a shame, because I could totally see a kind of like Barbenheimer and Hathawayenheimer situation where both movies could have been like memed into people going to an Anne Hathaway double feature, given how different the two movies are. Lowery's films have never really been smash hits. They're pretty low budget, and even then they struggle to make their budgets back, but they always do well critically, and I'm glad that A24 continues to produce his movies, even if Mother Mary didn't quite land as well as his other films, which is a shame because I think it absolutely deserved better. If you're into any simple character studies or procedurals involving people working through a challenge in a very intimate location, or if you like films that try unique approaches to incorporating horror themes and imagery into their stories while being an approachable and interesting drama, or if you like any of David Lowery's previous films, then I think Mother Mary is worth your attention. And if you don't meet any of that criteria, well, you should still watch it. I mean, like what? It's 2 hours, like, you know, who cares? And if you still disagree,
sit-ups, tricep curls, and, bench kicks, I don't know. You did not just ask me that question. What a forward young man you are. My goodness. How much weight?